This show is going to be a real pat on the back. It's Barry Horowitz, the legendary 80s and 90s wrestling star, this week on the Outdated Wrestling Hour. That guy Horowitz could really go. Welcome back to the Outdated Wrestling Hour. I'm Bob Smith, the ancient former managing editor of Pro Wrestling Illustrated, back when an issue cost $1.75. Welcome back, and welcome back our co-host. You knew him from his era as a wrestling sheet writer. Today, he continues to be a writer with GenerationXWire.com, the most unique entertainment website you'll find anywhere. His name is Joe Puccio. Thank you, Joe, for being here.
Thank you, Bob. I am the not quite as ancient Joe Puccio, but the getting there ancient Joe Puccio.
You young punk. Everybody's younger than I am. And you know, it's funny. I just did, on the Entertainment Hour, I just did a show about Star Trek. And I was the only one who saw the show. And it's an original one that came out. I'm so old. The other two had seen it later in life. I'm the only one of the three of us that saw them in 1966 to 1969. How do you like that?
Yeah, I can say, I mean, in my case, I certainly, I wasn't born when Star Trek first came out. But, a fun fact about Star Trek, I have never seen an episode of that show, whether it's the original or the spinoffs and the later editions. I don't think I've ever seen one episode from start to finish. Why, I don't know. I'm not the biggest sci-fi guy. I do like some of it, depending on what it is, but I can't say I'm a huge science fiction fan. But I don't know. It's just one of those shows that, you know how everybody has these shows that were really popular and they just kind of get away from you for whatever reason. You just never watch it. And I just never have. It wasn't really on in my house growing up. That's the way it is. So I've never seen it. Maybe one of these days. Maybe the Entertainment Hour will get me to watch it.
What makes it different is that the writing of the Star Trek series was so advanced, with such good authors and writers that were writing the scripts, is that there were character studies as much as it was science fiction, and the personalities of the guys on the bridge, Kirk and Spock and Bones and Dr. McCoy and all of them. It's just, I think you'll like it if you try it. And try the original by me. I'm just talking that first series with William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy. Yeah, everything else has been treading water as far as I'm concerned. To me, Star Trek is that bunch. That's my opinion now.
No, I will say, if I ever do watch it, I will undoubtedly, I'm going to start with the original. To me, that's the one. I mean, if I'm going to watch it, why not start with the original? Start with the one that, the best, the one that got it all started. I just remember when I was in school growing up, it was sort of a Star Wars versus Star Trek thing. It was always sort of like you were pigeonholed into one. Are you a Star Trek guy? Are you a Star Wars guy? I don't know if that at what point that's sort of ceased the argument stopped, but that's the way I remember it. I was a Star Wars fan as a kid. I really grew out of that as I got older.
Me too.
Yeah.
To this day, I've only seen the first Star Wars film.
Oh, wow.
I didn't think it could be topped. It was so perfect that I think anything else would just be, maybe it's just, I'll try another one maybe someday, but for now I've only seen one. You couldn't possibly watch all the Star Trek series. Star Trek Enterprise, Star Trek this, Star Trek Goes to the Park. I mean, it's just been 80,000 series since the original one. I think you would be tripping over your old gray beard if you tried to watch them all at this point. There's too many. Plus the movies.
Now, what about the one with I'm sorry, I'm forgetting his name, Picard? That was sort of like, among Star Trek fans, I feel like that one was always talked about a lot. What are your feelings on that one?
Yeah, I never saw it.
Oh, you know? Oh,
No, I
okay.
stopped with the original series. I am one of those people who go, it couldn't and it's a personality flaw with me. I think when I really like something and they try to revive it in a different way, I'm thinking, "I'll never like this better than the original, what's the point?"
Okay.
That's just the way I am. I'm built that way, I don't know. I'm also built like a Whammo Super Ball, but that's another story. So, in a so in any event, now we got something really important to go over before we start with the wrestling portion. First of all, Barry Horowitz is our guest today, who have had a recent dealing. I want to thank you for introducing him to me because he's going to be a great guest. I've done the interview already, and you can also read his musings on generationxwire.com. He was a recent article feature there, right?
I had a great conversation with Barry as well. Some great stories about his time in the business. He also is a very opinionated guy when it comes to today's wrestling. And he
Mhm.
had a lot to say about that, a lot to say about today's WWE, a lot about AEW. So I had a great time. I had a great time speaking with him. And of course, you'll be speaking with him or when it comes out on his book that he has out now. And I finished his book about a month ago. Some good stories, about his life all the way from his childhood up until what he's doing now. So I highly recommend that book as well.
I'm going through the book right now, and I will echo Joe's comments. The book's really good, surprisingly good, surprisingly literary, surprisingly fact-filled. I didn't expect what I got out of the book, and he's one of the few guys out there now who can broach everything from the '70s to today's wrestling, just like I can,
Mhm.
because he worked with some stars who worked in the '70s. It's astounding. He had quite a career, and as you know, I admire Gene Ligon as much as I admire Ric Flair, which means I also admire Barry Horowitz as much as I admire the other 2. A good professional wrestler he was. I never saw him do a bad job. When he got pushed, they usually give him some funny angles to work around and stuff like that. He was good. He was a good wrestler. It
It
doesn't
was
matter.
great.
Win-loss records don't mean anything to me because I know so much about wrestling. I know what his peers thought, and I know what I think, and he was always good in the ring. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, he's a great worker. Of course, I mean it's kind of funny. I mean, win-loss records really mean nothing because it's a work. So I mean,
Yeah.
what does it matter? The only thing that really matters is how you entertain in the ring, how you play your character, how you're on the mic, how you are in the ring, your skill set, things like that. And he had it, and I think that's his longevity speaks to that. Because, like you said, he's been around for so many years. He even had some appearances, I think, in AEW a year or two ago. They brought him in for something. He still got something. I know from my conversation with him, he said he was still looking to produce. He's still looking to help out any of the major companies. I think he still has something to give. Yeah, I think it really speaks to him on how long his career was. We're still talking about him today. And I mean, let's be honest. You talk to any wrestling fan who grew up in the 70s and 80s, everybody knows who Barry Horowitz is. I mean,
Yep.
everybody knows him, so
Mhm.
it speaks for that.
It's funny. What the wrestling promoters try to sell you isn't always the best thing you see. I remember in 1980-ish, around 1980, a friend of mine went to the Mid-Hudson Civic Center in Poughkeepsie to see an evening of WWF action. On the card was Hulk Hogan and also a big main event. I can't even remember who the main event was, but I remember the opening match was Rene Goulet versus Pretty Boy Larry Sharp, and they went to a 20-minute draw. The match was great. The match was great. It wasn't just the usual headlock, side headlock. Guy reaches for foreign object, jabbed him for a while. Ref doesn't see it. Good guy gets the foreign object. It wasn't that type of a thing. It was a tremendously semi-scientific worked match, right? So we're driving home, and I go, Rick, what do you think the best match of the night was? Because I think it was the Goulet. I said, you're right. It was the Rene Goulet match. We liked the opener better than anything else that was on the show
Isn't that
because
crazy?
you could tell the guys there were 2 real pros, Larry
Mhm.
Sharp and Rene Goulet, doing what they did best.
Well,
A
that's
good
the other
wrestler's a
thing.
good wrestler, man. It doesn't matter what they push. It matters what the match is like. At least that's my concept anyway.
No, of course. I mean, and that's what you just said. It's telling that they put these 2 guys in the opening match, these 2 guys who would be considered at that point in their careers preliminary wrestlers, and
Mhm.
they gave them the responsibility of working for 20 minutes. I'm sure they didn't give that to Hogan. I mean, I'm sure if Hogan was on the card, what did he wrestle? 6 minutes if he was lucky. So, I mean, it goes to show you that they put their trust, the bookers, whoever it was at the time, Pat Patterson, he put his trust in these 2 so-called preliminary or so-called jobbers. So I have the same experience with a lot of the shows I went to see in the 80s, the mid 80s, late 80s. They used to do that very often, whether it was the Garden, whether it was Nassau Coliseum, the Meadowlands, any of the arenas in the New York area, they would always put two guys of that skill set, of that level in the pecking order together in a mat. And more often than not, they would go fairly long, not always 20-minute draws, but usually they give them about, 12, 15 minutes.
It's funny how the philosophy, the opening match has changed in WW whatever since the 80s to now, because the philosophy back then was the slow build.
That's true.
Usually matches 3 and main event with the big action-packed, big audience reaction bouts. They would build a small match, a bigger match. Here's 2 stars, now a slightly smaller match, and then the main event. Because in upstate New York, they always had 5 or 6 match cards, right? Now they hit you over the kitchen sink with the first match on the pay-per-views and everything else. When you watch, you'll have a world championship match as your leadoff for WrestleMania.
Right.
Right? They hit you with the kitchen sink right out of the box. They didn't do that in our day, at least not in my day.
No, they didn't. And that's funny you bring that up, because that's right. I think, wasn't night 1 of WrestleMania this year? Wasn't it the Uso match?
Yeah, it was a Gunther.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Yes.
They're putting that on first, but I'm curious, because you're all right that did not happen back when we were growing up. We watched wrestling, but I am curious. Do you like that? Do you like that thinking of nowadays, where they'll kind of start you off with something that really just gets you into that you're thinking is not going to be on to the end, or do you like the thinking of, let's build this show up, let's start with the lower level, and then that every match is going to be bigger than the last? What's your opinion on that?
Here's the thing. It doesn't really bother me from my viewing ability of a card, whether they start slow or start big. I never really thought about it until recently. But I will say this, by throwing everything at you in your first match, it's kind of like seeing a guitar player at a concert. He's your favorite guitar player, and he is wailing on the first song. He is just getting down. He's getting standing ovations for a solo in the middle of the first song, and it's rocking, and it's great. But then he does the same thing in the second song, and the third song, and the fourth song. By the time it's the fifth song, you've been there. You will not react the same way into a concert as you will the first time you hear something that knocks your ears off, right? It's just the way it is. Repetitiveness leads to been there, done that. Now, I just think that the way they're doing it now with throwing everything at you in the first match makes it harder for the people on the rest of the card, the other wrestlers, because they have to either top it or equal it.
Yeah.
And that's why you see a lot of third and fourth match reviews going, well, after the opener, they had a hard act to follow, and now this came on, and let's say it was Penta versus whoever Chad Gable is now. There's no way that could get a good review on a WrestleMania because it followed a hot shot opener.
Right. I'll say 2 points about that. First thing, I'll play devil's advocate when you use that analogy with the guitarist and the first song in a concert. If you think of it in a different way, a concert, if you're going to see a big band playing a concert, you're going to see the Stones, you're going to see the Who, Aerosmith, whatever it is, they're 9 times out of 10, the first song in a concert is going to be a well-known rocker, right? It's going to be something really in. So that would sort of be the equivalent in wrestling today of starting you off with a really, great match, a match that you really wanted to see. So in that sense, it's kind of like they're following suit, which I do like. Second point I want to make is you said that, it's hard for other performers to top what happens in the first match if they're following this structure. That's true, but I think one big difference is, again, when we were talking about 70s and 80s going to live shows, it was a different structure in the sense that, and again, nothing against somebody like a Barry Horowitz, but Barry Horowitz versus, let's just say, a Steve Lombardi, for example. Those two guys in the first match is much different than it is nowadays, because nowadays they don't have enhancement matches. Nowadays, it's literally like they don't have enough time to put in all the matches that they want to see. Look at WrestleMania. They have to split it up into 2 nights because they have so many matches, and there really aren't. Yes, there are some matches that you want to see more than others, but there's no, you're not going to see 2 preliminary guys going at it. So in that sense, I feel like it's not really hard. I don't think it's really that much of an obstacle for performers today, only because it seems like every performer has the ability to outdo each other. They're all top stars. They're all superstars. You know what I mean? So
True.
In a way, it's a little different. I personally, I'm kind of like with you though. It doesn't bother me either way. Like I'm fine with starting off with a ho-hum match, a match that, it's good, but it's just kind of getting you into it. Sort of like, back in the day when they used to say, oh, you're at a live show, and people are still filing in. People are still getting merch. People are you still in the bathroom. They're still getting food before they go to their seats. So they're putting on this match that it's okay if you miss a few minutes. Nowadays, not so much like that. It's if you miss the first match on the show, you might miss one of the best matches on the show.
Yep.
So I'm kind of in the middle in that argument.
This will go back, and I hope I'll edit this out. There's a baby crying in my hallway. I hope you don't hear that. Anyway, can you hear it? Nah, it's just a disgruntled listener.
The new feature on the
it's a new feature. We're going to allow you to come on and just boo us. It's I'm not editing this out. It's just staying in. All right. Anyway, this leads us to this leads us to an interesting thing people have always reasoned. What is it with Madison Square Garden that your main event would be the fourth match or the fifth match? I will answer this question for you. And when you think about it, you'll go, oh, yeah. They would start with something slow, right? And build. And fourth match is Bruno versus Stan Hansen, whatever, right? And then did they have an intermission there? I don't remember if they did. I don't think they did. And then it would go right back down to Johnny Rodz versus whoever the out-of-town good guy was, Jack Briscoe, Jerry Briscoe, Ric Flair would come in, those type of guys. And at the end of the night, you would just see usually a six-man tag team match or a tag team match. Why did they do it that way? There's a very simple answer for that. There was a curfew at Madison Square Garden. You didn't want your main event at curfew time or you couldn't end it on time. I think they had a strict New York Athletic Commission 11 o'clock curfew. So you couldn't go long.
And yes, that's one of the reasons. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe there was another reason for that.
Really?
When I used to go to the Garden shows growing up, I feel like they followed that. Yeah, the same thing you're saying. They started off slow, and then I would say maybe like the fifth match. In my era, it was basically Hogan. So in the fifth match, it would be the Hogan title defense against whoever they were feeding him that month. And then the last match of the show would be, like you said, it would still be a big match. But it might be maybe the Intercontinental title, or maybe, like you said, a six-man tag with a bunch of.
I don't even think they went that far. There would never be a championship match in the last match. Never.
Yeah.
It would be usually a featured six-man, like Albano and the Samoans versus Putski, Pat Patterson, and Tony Gurria, or something like that.
That's funny that you mentioned that, because my first ever live show at the Garden, that was what they did. They ended with a six-man match. It was the British Bulldogs and Albano versus Valentine, Beefcake, and Johnny Valiant. And that was the main event, it was the main event, so to speak, in the sense that it was the last match of the show. For that show, actually, Hogan did not wrestle. The so-called main event was, I believe, Savage Santana, which was in the middle of the show for the Intercontinental title. But I think the other reason, what I was going to say, is what they would do is they would put the main event on in the middle, and then right after that was over, Howard Finkel would come on the mic and he would announce a couple of the matches for the next month's show, and it would directly tie into what just happened. So let's say Hogan just wrestled the Big Boss Man, and something happened where it was a screw job finish, and now next month they want to have Hogan Boss Man in a steel cage. So Finkel would say, next month at Madison Square Garden, you're going to see Hogan versus the Boss Man in a cage. And then, to answer your question, I think they did, if memory serves me right, they did do a little intermission, maybe a 10-minute intermission. And the reason why they did that was also so that fans could go to the box office and buy tickets for the next month. So I feel like that was another reason, because if they had waited till the last match of the night, then everyone's filing out and they're missing out on those people buying those tickets.
But if you notice those tag team matches at the end of the show, and there was a lot, just go to any Madison Square Garden and see what the last match was. If it was a best 2 or 3 falls, which they usually booked, and they'd say 1 hour time limit, and the fans would go, ooh, right? The first fall would take about 11 minutes. Fall 2, 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Fall 3, 1 minute and 9 seconds.
Right. They rushed it at the end. Yeah.
Yes. Every freaking time. And nobody ever caught on.
Yeah.
Nobody ever thought about it, because they were trying to get out of there before the curfew and have plenty of time to wrap things up. So, but you know what? And you're right about one thing that I'm very romantic about. The ring announcer standing in the ring telling you the next month's card goes all the way back to friendly Bob Fried in the early 1970s. So they would take a moment during every show. And I used to love, there are videos of Bob Fried doing it, and he'd mispronounce every other wrestler's name. The Malton Giant Baron Mikey Skinking Lean. He was the worst, but I loved him for it. It was, you know why? It made it seem real to me.
Yeah. Like
The
it was a
guys
real
they
sport.
hired to do these peripheral jobs were usually state athletic commission hacks or something like that. They had to be there. And I think even in some cases, or the guy was just a local guy who was on radio 50 years ago or something. Now, I don't know the history of Bob Fried, but I do know he couldn't pronounce my name. It was just, he was just, but he was lovable, and his name was Friendly Bob Fried. He must have been a weatherman somewhere.
But that's what I mean. That's a good point. It's, those commentators or ring announcers, whichever one you want to talk about, there was something charming about how they were unpolished. Because even like on the commentator side in the 80s, you had somebody like Angelo Mosca or Pat Patterson on the commentator. And were they great commentators? No. But they gave it sort of a realism because they didn't know what was going on half the time. They would mispronounce someone's name. And in a way, it made you feel like it was more of like a down and dirty, realistic sport, as opposed to today where, Michael Cole will be on the mic and everything has to be said, in WWE speak. And this is a WWE superstar and everything's got to be perfectly thought of beforehand. And it seems so like it's so overproduced now, which I get it. That's the point. That's what they're trying to get nowadays. But it certainly takes away some of that real sport feel or aura from back then. Right. Yeah, I completely agree.
And you would think it was a real sport, at least at the Garden, because the ring was surrounded by like 17 different New York State Athletic Commission people, all wearing badges.
Yep. And what about the cops? The cops were always like coming down the ring with the wrestlers. They would be like surrounding the ring. Think about that today. You don't see that anymore.
No, but I'll tell you what, it added to the feeling of realism. Like what you were seeing was legit. And I miss that flavor. Like, I can't tell you. That was my jam. That was the time period. Even into the 80s, it felt like that.
I agree. For me, it was the 80s. And I agree. I used to love that. It was, it felt less planned, less rehearsed, less produced. And it just felt realer. It just felt like what I really fell in love with, originally with wrestling. That was really it. Yeah. It's certainly not like that anymore. I mean, now they have to get these guys coming down the ring where, can you imagine if like they put like 5 or 6 security guards or athletic commission guys surrounding them, then you would miss the shot. You wouldn't be able to see the fireworks. You wouldn't be able to see the yeeting.
Not only that, but the guys from that era that would accompany the guys to the ring didn't look like they were part of the show at all.
No, they didn't. Yeah.
Like the cops would have kind of like a grimace on their face. You could tell they didn't know what was going on, but they were there to protect. And it added an air of authenticity to everything. You make an excellent point there. All the people around the ring, they didn't know what was going on.
Right.
Some of them were just there because they could go. I know this for a fact because I knew people in the athletic commission back then, and they would just go because they could. They weren't doing anything. They were just part of the New York Athletic Commission. And that was kind of I could see why the WWF battled that after a while, because why do they need these 18 people around ringside, even if they were enforcing stuff? I'll give them the devil's advocate. The Athletic Commission was there. I think they were the ones that oversaw the pre-match mini physical that they used to take backstage. And then, they were probably checking if the ring was proper and all that other stuff. Overall, I think there should be more of that, not less, but money talks, Jackson. Money talks.
Very true. Very true.
Well, anyway, we have a conduit here between the 80s and now. It's Barry Horowitz. You know him, I know him, but now everybody else is going to get to know him from listening to this interview. And again, Joe, thank you for bringing him our way. He's quite a guy and a big part of wrestling history when you think about him.
He really is. I don't care about win-loss records. Throwing that out the window, Barry Horowitz could certainly be considered a legend in the business strictly for his longevity, how many guys he's worked with, how many territories he's been in, the respect he garners from his coworkers, his opponents, performers, whatever it is. So I was happy to do it. And this is going to be a good one.
Well, Barry's great. His book is great. We're going to talk all about that in just a couple of moments after this quick timeout. Don't go anywhere. Put on your oldest pair of slippers. Get your oldest pair of coffee mugs out and enjoy some Java. We're going to go back to the 80s with Barry Horowitz. We will be right back with a really interesting fellow right after this. It's your one-stop shop for great wrestling. WrestleCopia.com, where you'll find an armload of great wrestling podcasts. Some are weekly, some are not. All of them are great. Ray Russell brings WrestleCopia to you, including his own show, The Wrestling Memory Grenade. There's Regional Wrestling, The Wrestling Stoop with Bob Roop, The Puro Wrestling Academy, Retro Wrestling Review with Gene Jackson, Dave Dynasty's Wrestling Nostalgia, Monday Warfare, Raw vs. Nitro, the Other Ship podcast, the Captain's Corner podcast, and much, much more. Great host, great shows. I guarantee you'll learn something every time you tune in to the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. Where do you find all these shows? How about starting it this way? Just log on to WrestleCopia.com. There's nothing else like it anywhere. I have been saying since January that 2025 is going to be an amazing year for wrestling books. It has been, and I'm telling you, they're coming fast and furious. And about a month ago, I picked up a book called Wrestling Is My Gimmick, My Life on the Wrong Side of the Three Count. It's written by the one and only Barry Horowitz, and written with Jason Norman. And I am about halfway through it now. I'm telling you, add this to the list. This is a good one. And I want to introduce to you one of the finest wrestlers of the 80s and 90s. Wins and losses don't mean anything. This was a really good pro wrestler. I am proud to have Barry Horowitz on the show. Welcome.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for that awesome introduction. I appreciate you very much, and your viewing audience and my fans and everybody who's listening and hopefully interested in the book.
Well, I think they will be. And first of all, I want to just make one little editorial statement. I have nothing but the utmost respect, and for my years in the business and watching you all those years, I think pro wrestlers are the finest athletes on the planet. They put up with more. You kind of have to give up your whole life to become a pro wrestler. It's very, very hard. You don't get scouted. Sometimes you kind of talk your way into things. It's a hard life, but it can also be a good life. And I hold Gene Ligon in the same regard as Ric Flair. Same regard. And I hold you in the same regard as those two. It takes a special breed to be a pro wrestler. If you could do it for 2 years, you're almost doing an impossibility in my eyes. So I just want to say I have so much respect for what you did. I really enjoyed your work. By the way, in 1992, you were number 114 of 500 in the PWI 500 in the magazine. I want you to know I wrote that article.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, so we do have a little in common. That shows you how much of esteem I held you in, because out of the 500 wrestlers, you were almost top 100, and now you're up with the big boys in my eyes.
Oh, thank you.
You did great work. You're very entertaining pro wrestler. I don't want to give away too much about what's in the book, but I want to let you talk about why a book, why now? Why did you decide to write it at this point in your life?
Okay, so it's been a work in progress for about 5 years. I've had wrestling fans ask me in the same sentence, almost, when are you going to get a book? When are you going in the Hall of Fame? So I said, I had a lot going on and I was very busy and I knew I had time. I wanted to pick the right person, the right author. And it just so happened in Virginia Beach, I was doing a meet and greet and I did meet an author with great credentials, great background, wrote wrestling books, wrote sport books. That felt right. And it took about a year to do. And numerous interviews, but it was worth it. I think it's going well as far as the whole book itself, the total package, as far as the name, myself. I'm glad I didn't rush it. That's what it is. I mean, after this, I fast forward, I would like to do an audio book. And the third and last thing of my bucket list and my legacy would be I'd love to be a coach or what they call producers in the back. I call them coaches. Help with the matches, help with interviews, help with moves, coaching professional wrestling. I would love to do that for one of the big companies. So we'll see what happens.
I would think you're certainly qualified for that. And by the
Yeah,
way,
thank you.
I'll blow some smoke at you right now. You were a really good wrestler, and you were really entertaining. You had an edge to your what you did that not a lot of guys had. And like I said, it supersedes the wins and losses. You figured out a way to become an entertainer as well as an athlete. And that's not the easiest thing to do. I'm sure you'd agree with that.
Totally. No, you're totally right with that statement. I'm glad you that's a good observation, a good statement because a lot of people don't realize that. And what I did was I made myself relevant on my own. Hopefully they would catch that relevancy and they
Mhm.
did. And if they didn't, they're blind. So, I mean, I was they may n I look at it this way, when you go in an airport, maybe even if you see me on TV in the ring, you may not know who I am, but I am somebody. I wanted to show it with my entertainment value, but not over, more wrestling, more holds, more submissions, more fine tuning a total match from A to Z. I'd like to cover everything and not be boring or complacent. And it was that's just my way and drive that way since I've been amateur wrestling since I'm 15, 16 years old.
Well, you had a unique ability in that you could be a good guy, a bad
Mhm.
guy, a scientific wrestler, a dirty rule breaker. No matter what situation or the moment in time called for, you could fill that role. Not everybody could do
I think I was all of the above at the same time.
that.
See what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
I really do. Yeah, and that's the way I molded myself. Of course, what they wanted also, they're in charge. But as long as, I've got my way of creating my character and Mr. Technical Barry Horowitz, and yeah, it went well because obviously it worked. I mean, and I could have dropped out. I've seen many guys do that. You know, at the end of the day, I fulfilled my dream. This is what I wanted to be. Did did I get to be the lead singer of the rock group? No, I didn't, but I'm part of that rock group. Not everybody could be the lead singer. It's impossible. It
Mhm.
just doesn't work that way. But guess what? If you're in a smash group of country music or hip hop or rock and roll, and you're part of something huge, and you're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and stuff like that, you don't have to be the lead singer. You know? Believe me, when I go to the bank, they don't say, "Hey, Barry Horowitz, did you win or lose last night?" They say, "How much would you like to deposit?"
That's right. Let me ask a question in that vein. A few years ago, when I first started the podcast, I had a former WWF preliminary wrestler named Broadway Sonny Blaze on. I don't
Mhm.
know if you ever crossed
Blonde
paths with
hair?
him. No, he had dark hair. Dark
No,
hair.
maybe I didn't know.
I think he got his nose broke by DiBiase in one of the TV matches. He worked for about a year and a half and worked a lot on television. He just got squashed every time he
How
went
long
out there.
ago?
And we're talking 88, 89.
Right. If it's a Sunny Blaze I know, he parted his hair down the middle. It was
Yeah.
straight and blondish, nice tan, nice guy. If it's the one I remember, and if he enhanced for WWF or E, whatever, yeah,
Yeah,
I
he did.
know him.
All right, so here's the question. I
Okay.
asked him after his 2-year stint or thereabouts, "Was it worth it? Could you make a living? How was it?" He said, "I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world," on every count. He loved what he was doing. He may have won 1 match the whole time he was there, probably on a house show somewhere. You know how it works, or maybe in his hometown or something like that in Long Island. But he was nothing but praise for everybody.
Mhm.
Looking back at your time with we'll call it the World Wrestling Federation, do you feel the same? Were there some bumps in the road? Did the wins and losses really mean that much to you personally?
Personally, no. It's a professional attitude.
Mhm.
And the moment some guys get this through their thick head, they'll progress in their career. Sure, would I have liked to won more championships, more notoriety, more promo time, even if I'm qualified? If they don't want that in there, they don't put that in there. I've seen so many guys in the indie group that deserve to be maybe in my position. Maybe they don't. Maybe it's because they're retired. Maybe they don't go to the gym. Maybe they don't fit the mold. It's almost a big guessing game. I've seen people in music that are phenomenal. Why aren't they there? You that's almost the $5 million question. You just there's only obvious things. For instance, the guy doesn't train. He fails drug tests. He's not a good wrestler. He don't know a wrist lock from a wristwatch. Okay, that's why. He's got a bad attitude. He don't want to make people look good. Okay, you got to get that. If you're looking for a win-loss record for yourself, you need to just quit pro wrestling, call up Dana White, get yourself MMA trained, go to UFC, and see how that works.
Mhm.
You will get your ass beat in 10 seconds and beg to come back to pro wrestling.
Mhm.
And I think there's a few that had that done. I can't even remember their names, but
Right.
if that's what you want. I've always wanted to be a pro wrestler. I planned it, my long range goal. I prepped everything for this, starting with who trained me, how I got trained. I've been trained by the best in the world.
There you go.
Yeah.
It amazes me how the younger wrestlers now do look at the wins and losses like it's the utmost thing. And that's one of the ways that wrestling has changed over the course of the last 30 years, 30 or 40 years. I don't agree with that mindset. It takes, if you go to see a Broadway show, like I just saw the Broadway show that has George Clooney as the star, but there were
Oh, what?
35 people on the stage at one point. You needed every one of them, right? Not everybody can have his role, but you can be part of the team. And I think pro wrestling, when it's done right, it's teamwork on everybody's part. Am I right or wrong?
To a certain extent, uh, it's like anything else. I'm sure in the locker rooms of NFL and Hollywood and sports and other sports and NASCAR, it's somewhat political. You
Mhm.
can't get away from that. You just don't know about it.
Yeah. That's a good point too. Hey, listen, I know that the name of your book is Wrestling Is My Gimmick, My Life on the Wrong Side of the 3 Count, but you won, man. You won a lot. I mean,
I know.
this is gonna surprise you. I was thrilled when you went to Global in the early '90s because was Eddie Gilbert there at that point?
Yes, he was. Uh-huh.
I'll bet he looked at you and said, "We're gonna do something with you," because and they did something with you there. You had a
I was
really prominent role in that and a real high point in that period there.
I did my promos. We had good matches there at the iconic Dallas Sportatorium, downtown
Mhm.
Dallas. I was the winner, Barry Horowitz, or Barry the Winner Horowitz, whatever you want to call it. I was treated well there and I enjoyed it. And you would think this is back in a time where I could work for anybody. I would go there with a position and then go back to WWF or enhancement. You would think they could see something there. Maybe it wasn't a right person watching the monitors, or maybe they weren't interested in that look, but maybe see, you gotta there's so many layers to my book, my story, my whole career. For instance, when I say layers, you would think that the big boys would see that, and maybe they were interested and maybe they weren't. They just didn't do anything with me, and I was actually told by a higher upper office guy, "Hey, I saw you on Global, you work for us." I said, "I gotta work for everybody." I said, "You put me in a contract, I'll wrestle for you and you only." I mean, because I was going to Japan, I was going overseas trips for indie promotions, and they finally did. They did because that was smart, especially when they were pushing me with Skip.
Right, right.
Yeah, 'cause
Mhm.
they had a lot invested in me.
That's right, and that went on for quite a while, didn't it?
Yeah, and there's another thing. You know how many times I could have left that company? They're not doing nothing with me." Why would you do that? You're enjoying your career. Keep on striving. What do you got to lose? You're getting a
It
good work. I have gone up to that gorilla position numerous times. And Gorilla Monsoon would say, I'm ready. I'm pumped. I'm this. Hey, we don't have time for your match. It's nothing personal. It's live TV. We're on Raw. We don't have time for the dark match. We don't have time for your match. No problem. Other guys kicking garbage cans, complaining. Just shut your mouth. You got paid for putting your boots on. There's so much to think about. And then you'll get the other guys thinking, oh, you're just you know, I didn't want your career to. There's people that would, other guys that would strive for my career. There's always something there, or like what you were saying before about these guys. You were saying something I didn't get to finish, but basically, the end of that sentence was they're a mark for themselves. See, when they think
Yes.
their career, they should be winning, they should be doing this, they should be doing that. I think now I'm echoing these sentiments, what I wanted to say before. They should be doing this, they should be doing that. It matters what they want, okay? And it's a long road, it's a lot of layers to my career as far as it's just not wrestling. Like I said, I could have left many times and I'm glad I did stay.
Not everybody has had a career as long as you're. In fact, I did a little I was researching some stuff. Now, I left PWI in 1995 because they moved. I couldn't go with them. They went to Pennsylvania. But in 1995, in Pro Wrestling Illustrated, you were voted in by the fans as the most inspirational wrestler of the year. Of all the people in wrestling, you won that designation. By the way, did they send you a plaque at least?
Oh, yeah, I'm looking at it on my wall of
Oh,
fame.
they did? Okay, that's great.
Yeah, they did that. We did publicity pictures the year before. Who was there before? Okay, so the year before, the person who was in was the year before me, Bret
Mhm.
Hart.
Right,
Come on, come
right,
on.
exactly.
Same
I know.
same caliber wrestler as far as technical aspect. There's numerous. There's Barry Hart. There's Owen Hart. There's the Hart family. There's Bret Hart. We could go on and on with technical wrestlers. Mike Graham, Jack Briscoe, Dory Funk Jr. I can go on and on. Brad Armstrong, the whole Armstrong family. Tommy Wildfire Rich, Tom Zink. We can
Mhm.
go on and on. Bob Orton Jr., Bob Orton Sr., Randy Orton. Like I
Yeah.
said, you can go on and on.
So anyway, yeah, I mean, that shows you just that for that little bright moment in time in '95,
Yeah.
you were getting noticed, man, after all those miles and all those places you worked at that stage in your career to get that. And I'm telling you, those award, and I hear this all the time. Oh, the awards are fake. The promoters tell them who to put in, or somebody paid to get this award. Bull. All right. I worked there. I will state my professional reputation on the fact that those were fan votes and you won it. And I think that's really cool. I mean, that must have been free work where in Global at that point?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was living in Nashville, Tennessee at the time. Yep. The photographers came to my house. And yeah, it was great. It was, I got some kind of notoriety. And then, of course, the big win with SummerSlam. That's their second
Right.
biggest show of the year to this day.
Right.
WrestleMania is number one. I'm a
Mhm.
part of it. I win there. I also do vignettes with Hakushi. I did a karate fighters commercial for Hasbro or Mattel. I was on a celebrity softball team in Anaheim. I was captain of my team in Survivor Series. I was the Red Knight in the main event in Boston Gardens against the Hart family.
Right. Right.
I mentioned that
Wow.
in my book now. It was kept a secret. Well, it's not a secret no more, and it doesn't matter. So a lot of things don't matter anymore 20 years ago. Like fans didn't really get it. Now, when I go to these meet and greets, I'm in the presence of historian wrestling fans. You know
Mhm.
what? How you could tell? I'm going to say if there's 100, 99 are saying, wow, Barry, I enjoyed your career. You look like you could still wrestle, this, and that. And they go, I'd rather watch your match than the main event because when I get in there, when my match is done between I call it the total match, the perfect match. If I'm getting in there with Owen Hart, I'm gonna make him look good, he makes me look good. My referee is either Joey Morella or Dave Hebner, Earl Hebner. Great referees. I could name more and more. Danny Davis, Mike Chioda. These are premium, top-notch referees. You have all of that. You involve the fans, and you show them a story told that is the perfect match. And you know how many guys could do that? Not too many.
Mhm. I absolutely agree with you.
I mean, a story is told. Did you wrestle? Yes. Did you work a hold? Yes. Did you try to tap him out? Yes. Did you try to pin him numerous times? That's the name of the game. Pin him, submit him.
Mhm.
Tell the story. I mean,
Yep.
if you vault that in, you've got the total story told, the total match.
Yep.
And that's what I conveyed. So when I lost certain TV matches, what are you going to do? You do what you're told. But at the end of the night, they go, Barry Horowitz lost, but wow, did he put up a fight. For instance, there's always the Patriots have lost. Tom Brady has lost. We can go on and on with this. You see what I'm getting at? There has
Yeah.
to be a winner. There has to be a loser.
All champions lose eventually.
Yes. It's just,
All of them.
and they needed somebody like me and other guys to well, first of all, I'll give an example. You go in there with Bret Hart. We're going to have almost a perfect match. Why? I could wrestle and work, so could he. But at the same time, the next night, I may go out there with I don't know, the Undertaker or some the Giant Gonzalez or something, and he beats me in 2 minutes. Whatever you want, I could do. Now, only some guys, well, I only know this or I only know that. I wanted to strive to be the best about everything. And it's not brag, it's just fact. In fact, some people are jealous. I don't know what they're jealous. If you're jealous of me, you need to go back and get retrained. And if you're on last and I'm on first and you're jealous, maybe we should switch places on the card.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know why they would feel that way. You're letting me in on the wrestler's psychology that I'm blind to, because it's like I can't think like a wrestler does, but you know how wrestlers think.
Yes, some of them, yeah.
Well, you know what I'm saying? The wrestler mindset. You've been in
Sure, I
1,000 locker
understand.
rooms, so you probably
Of
know,
course. I know how I think for wrestling. Go ahead.
Right. No two people are alike. Some people, like I say, they're everybody's in it for a different reason. Some people may be just doing it to make a living. Others want to continue to be an athlete, past their college careers or what have you. Everybody has a
Right.
different reason for doing it, I think.
Sure.
People are blissfully unaware that early in your career, you were the Florida heavyweight champion.
Yes, I
And you were
was. Yeah.
managed by Percy Pringle and Oliver Humperdinck.
Yes,
This
yes.
is going back to when you were how long were you in the business by that point?
First pro match was 1980 for an indie promotion in Florida for the Great Malenko. As far as major TV, 1981 for Vince McMahon Sr.
I was no doubt watching in those days. I'm one of those fools. Dude, in 1980, I went and spent, and this was back when $1,000 was a lot of money. I spent $1,000 on a newfangled concept called the VCR, right?
Mhm.
Why
Yeah.
did I buy it? I could smell a feud brewing between Bruno Sammartino and Larry Zbyszko in 1980. So I went out and dumped all that money, and I recorded every bit of their interviews and everything that was going on. That's how much I was into wrestling in those days. So 1 year later, you're in that scene. You're part of that
Yes,
scene.
yes, yes.
And that's probably where I saw you for the first time. Did you work the old, Joe McHugh, arenas and stuff like that?
Yeah, yeah, we would do Allentown on Tuesday,
Mhm.
Pennsylvania,
Right.
Hamburg, Pennsylvania, Wednesday, every 3 weeks. In those
Right.
2 days, in 2 days, back then, I probably worked 4 to 6 times.
Right, yeah, because they were TV tapings, exactly.
TV tapings, I was 21 years old.
Pretty good for a kid that age. That's
Yeah,
impressive.
really good, really good. It's paying my dues. That was the important part. See, in my opinion, especially in pro wrestling, you don't pay your dues, you'll never get respected, and you won't feel respected, you won't get respect. It 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 just needs to be.
Mhm.
It needs to be. If I ran something Well, this is just my idea. If I was with partners with somebody in a promotion and this, and that, I would have everybody in pro wrestling break in Tokyo, Japan.
Oh, yeah.
And you would get your ass beat for 1 year, but you would self-esteem, respect, learn how to work, learn how to do everything. When I say work, wrestling, bumping, everything. The promos and the glitter, they come down the road. You'll get polished with that. You go to train, you're not there for promos and how to bleed and all this stuff. You need to build a foundation in your house. And then as you go to the kitchen, the bedroom, the third bedroom, the fourth bedroom, the attic, that's called polished. And what you should learn is what, like I learned, 18 months. My first 6 months were on judo mats, 1 inch high, getting slammed, getting backdropped by Jody Malenko. After 6 months, we went to a mattress factory that was condemned, had 2 rings in it, 16 foot, 20 foot, a bathroom. 40 degrees in the winter in Florida is cold. In the summer, it was 105 in there. 3 nights a week. This is after a part-time job, lifting weights, warming up with Malenko for 1 hour. Then you do the wrestling and the moves, learn how to get in the ring for 2 hours. 3 days a week, 18 months, never missed a workout.
Impressive. And
Yeah.
that's impressive. It really is.
And then people will go,
but something tells me that you had the foresight to know this is what I have to do. This is how I'm going to get good.
you're exactly right. It's paying my dues, keep your mouth shut and listen. I love when these guys, I'll enter some types of obscure locker rooms. Most of the time, they're disrespectful. They don't know how to shake your hand. They don't know how to do this. They know it all. I'm looking better than you. I'm doing this better. I never thought that. I walked in that first time I walked in Allentown. First of all, I was always taught by Malenko. I mean, I was nervous and scared. There's Mr. Fuji in there, Bob Orton Jr., Bob Backlund, Vince Jr., Senior, uh, anybody you could think about, superstars there.
Mhm.
I shook everybody's hand. I did what they wanted to. I don't care if they're ribbing, they're doing jokes, whatever. There's nothing wrong with that. It's part of paying dues. And it works. It really works. But I would never go up to Mr. Saito or Don Morocco or Roddy Piper and go, you know what I mean? Something stupid, because that will get you in wrestling business. That'll get the shit slapped out of your face, and you're going to get stretched.
Right.
And it's not gonna be pleasant.
No, I've heard 1,000
Deserve it,
tales of that
and you
too, yeah.
deserve it. You
Right,
deserve it.
right.
Now, there's different groups that are brought up, the millennials, all that stuff, but I still come in contact, Bob, with that certain guy that's 20, 25, and he's respectful, and he knows how to do it, and he knows what to do, but it's few and far in between. First thing they wanna do, "I wanna get new trunks, and I wanna super kick somebody." What? Okay, well,
Mhm.
good luck with that. And by the way, all these so-called marks for themselves, go ahead and match my career. I've had injuries and everything. I'm still doing this since I'm 21 years old. Okay? I've paid my dues.
Consider that you and I are about the same age, I can't be more impressed. I have trouble getting out of bed in the morning, so the fact that you're still as active as you are, I gotta tip my cap to you because that's
I
pretty good.
I've wrestled twice in the last 2 years. I wrestled on Impact Wrestling against Johnny Swinger. You could look at it on YouTube. And then
Mhm.
I wrestled a hardcore match. Never did one in my life. I did little ones, but this one was one for the books. This was an independent show for Wrestle Pro New Jersey. Last match, didn't get in the ring till 11 o'clock. Was in the building since 2 o'clock. Got up at 3:30 in Florida and went 30 minutes with Joey Janela in a hardcore match. You can look at that on YouTube. It's amazing. Uh, and this is after being off for years, but I always stayed in shape. I always watched shows. I always watch matches. I watch matches that I like. I don't learn nothing from hardcore matches.
Or the deathmatch stuff,
Yeah,
that stuff
but
that's a step farther
there's
along.
nothing wrong with that. You got to have variety, just like a menu at a restaurant. You don't want like that scene in Cousin Vinny. They open up for breakfast and it says grits and bacon, coffee. That's breakfast. That's boring. You wanna have that Cracker Barrel or IHOP menu, 6 pages. You know? I mean,
Yeah.
you want variety on a wrestling card.
Now, something we were talking about breaking in around 81 with WWF. A name popped in my mind when you're talking. I'm sure you know Hacksaw Duggan.
Yes, I do.
And he was breaking in. He was from Glens Falls, New York, near where I grew up.
Wrestled there.
And I remember him losing matches on TV too. The original Jim Duggan, he was from Glens Falls, New York. Jim Duggan, Joe McHugh used to say. And he was big and strong, and he never even got a move in. If he was wrestling Killer Khan or somebody like that, he was just as big and strong as he was. He had to pay his dues. And there's another guy who did it. Here's another guy who did it with the right attitude, because I've talked to him a couple times in the years since. He doesn't regret anything. I think he's very thankful for the career he had.
He's a good guy. He's did well, especially for WWE, especially for Bill Watts. I wrestled Glen Falls Civic Center many times in that area. Love it there. Love the fans. They're great wrestling fans. Jim is he's very respectful. Every time I see him, he's very kind and genuine to me. So I like that. You could feel respect and genuine just through body language and people's words.
Right.
Sometimes it's not real either.
Right.
But you could feel genuine.
I've always felt like a kinship with him because we were both from upstate New York, and I always rooted for him. And when I saw what happened when he went to Bill Watts UWF, I went, "Wow, that didn't take long." Bill Watts was, say what you want about Bill Watts. Bill Watts could make a star.
Yes,
he could invent something for someone, like the hacksaw thing, or Junkyard Dog was another one of his creations. Those are the things that Bill Watts did better than anybody else. He could see a diamond in the rough.
Bill Watts in Florida, he was unbelievable in Florida, and he was a babyface. And he went against Buddy Colt for 1-year program. That is unheard of in today's wrestling. They do stuff in a week or two. You got fired. They don't have time to show it. See, you got to have stories that have length, have depth. And that one had depth, and it never got boring. Buddy Colt against Cowboy Bill Watts, 1-year program. Phenomenal. Unbelievable.
I am so glad you brought things like that up, because that's the idea behind this podcast. I'm here to give appreciation and thanks for all the stuff that thrilled me when I was growing up, through my PWI years, in all these years since. That's the stuff I was weaned on, that flavor. The fact that you could have a year program without letting up, and the action was always supreme, because, you believe that these two men were really not fond of each other, and they were going to beat the crap out of each other, and they did.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I like those programs. Well, it was Eddie Graham's in charge, and there was a lot of people in that village, in that city, to build that. But the kingpin was Eddie Graham, and he had other people following him, help too. But I would say he's the number one in the pecking order, Eddie Graham.
Let's turn back to your book for a second.
Sure.
First of all, I'm thrilled with it. Like I say, I'm not finished with it yet. I'll be honest with you, but oh man, it's so good. It's so literary. It's so well written and so comprehensive. I didn't know what to think. I'll be honest with you. When I started to read it, because I read a wrestling book every 2 weeks, because a lot of my guests are authors and things like that. So I start reading this book and I went, wow, this has got depth to it. This is, you could feel the truth in these chapters. And I was like, this is great stuff. And I know I'm not finished with it, but I'm loving it so far. And I want my listeners to know that when they read the book, it's a real book from a real publisher. And it was really worked on by writing and editing professionals, and you can tell the difference. And it's really great, man. I'm telling you.
It's an old school company, McFarlane. And then you've got Jason Norman, and if you notice, it says written by Barry Horowitz and Jason Norman. So basically, most of it is me. The other ad lib or other viewpoints are from Jason Norman. It's not, I didn't write the whole book. It's a play on words. I did write the whole book, but I didn't. Right. If that makes any kind of sense. Okay.
No. A lot of the wrestlers use either a ghostwriter or a secondary writer who kinda
Right.
transcribes what they say.
Mine was more of deciphering and putting it together. That's what Jason did, and he had his own little things that if he saw me wrestle. And then, of course, my son for the forward.
Right, right. Isn't that was a nice touch too? Because I saw the name and I went, "Ooh," and then "Oh, it's his son."
Yeah.
So I didn't know who
Yeah,
that was at
probably
first.
a lot of people are going, "Hey, is that his father? That his brother? That his son?" So but it's definitely my son, and, yeah, he did a great job, so but, yeah, the book is a no-brainer. It's just I remember from 21 to right now, and some of the stuff I didn't say, some of the stuff is is not nice to say, or everybody's doing that, the same old thing, or burying somebody, or using bold names, this and that. I didn't operate that way. That's just not my that's not my cup of tea. I don't do that. I'm not a follower, I'm a leader.
And you know what else I like too? When right at the beginning of the book, there's a list of people you thank. I love this because I got questions for you. Please let me ask you a couple questions. Play a
Of
little
course.
word association. I'll bring up a couple names. My favorite wrestler growing up as a kid, you actually knew Baron Mikhail Cicluna?
Yes, I did.
Tell me about him. What kind of a guy was he? And
This is how
tell
I
me he
met
was
him.
tell me he was underrated as a worker because he definitely was.
Underrated as a worker and a AKA a good amateur wrestler. Back in the day, when I worked for Jim Crockett Promotions in 1983, which Vince Sr. sent me there, my first real territory, we would go there and they would have a hotel by the Douglas Airport. They would have rooms for wrestlers if they didn't have a studio apartment, didn't have a house. I needed that. I needed to move in somewhere quick. I could room with a wrestler. They would make you food. It was perfect until I realized after a year I could save a lot of money and get an apartment and have more money. There you go, paying your dues again. It was worth it though that first year to get my feet wet in the Charlotte, North Carolina area. By the way, you're talking about a wrestling territory that is mammoth. I wrestled in almost every big small town in North and South, and there's still some left over. That's how big it is.
Yeah.
They ran a great TV, everything there. So I'm in these hotels and I meet Baron Cicluna. Maybe the second year I'm there, he's next door to me. And I didn't see him that much. Kayfabe was very strong. He was a heel. I was a baby face. I
Right.
saw him, never traveled with him. I didn't see him that much and talked to him, but he was polite, but never seen him since. Yeah, that's about right. But what I do remember, nice guy.
Yep. Did you ever cross paths with Johnny Rods?
Oh my God, I love Johnny Rods. And the
Mhm.
reasoning is there's a guy, almost the same positions. He's a
Right.
great wrestler. He
Unbelievable.
always looked good. He saved his money. Him and Jose Estrada and also Matt Luis Rivera. I know these guys well. They were so kind to me. They steered me right in their business, no, getting me off the rails. I learned so much from them by listening to them. To this day, I was at a meet and greet in New Jersey 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and I saw him. He was in the same room. I've seen him before, but those meet and greets, you're there to do business, then you're shuttled off to a restaurant to eat or the airport. It's not for lollygagging and meet and greet the wrestlers. You got
Mhm.
fans you take care of. They come first. That's what it's about.
Right.
And it's so rude when you're talking to a wrestler like this and the poor fan is waiting. They're afraid to say something. I don't operate that way. And if I do, oh, hey, sorry, you're next. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
What would you
Yep.
like? You know what I mean? Get back to Johnny Rods. Didn't mean to cut you
Mhm.
off, but
Nope.
what a great guy. He complimented my wrestling. He and it was for real. And I was so proud. I mean, to this day, it was only 2 years ago, 3 years ago. It just felt good because he's a great worker. He's a
Mhm.
good guy,
Mhm.
successful, did well. Let's just get back to that list. There's still some people missing off of that list. Let's say there's 60 people on there. I think I missed maybe 5. Not
Okay.
intentional. It's
Mhm.
just they pop up and I go, "Oh, I didn't mention Tracy Smothers from, Springfield, Tennessee." Something of that nature. But
Right.
that list, starting with probably the first, second, and third people are priority in my career. The rest follow. They help me. They help me get
Mhm.
polished. They help me with the business of conducting yourself as a pro. They help me with things outside the ring, inside the ring. It's not all about get to the building, grab a headlock, one tackle, get it again. It's much more than that. It's much more, and you learn as you go if you're serious about, I'm 150% in always. It's just, I treat it almost like a shoe, but it is sports entertainment. But if you get, it's good. Bob Backlund told me one time, he says, you don't want to overthink something, but you don't want to underthink something. Overthinking, it's too much for you. Underthinking, you don't care. But to keep it in the middle is very hard to do. Think about if you were on a tightrope and you're balancing, and to keep it in the middle without falling, that's hard.
Yeah. Another wrestler referred to what you said as the panic factor.
Right. And
if something goes a little bit wrong, you have to learn not to panic.
Right. That's true. And I'm guilty of it. I'll own it. You don't own things in life, you'll never get better. Mm-hmm. Oh, I know this, or I know that. I know that. I hate when I'll wrestle somebody and they really don't. Oh, I know. No, you don't know. Never. Just listen. Keep your mouth shut and listen. Is there something wrong with that? You're furthering your career. It's not a manly thing or nothing. It's a smart thing. And that list, by the way, I learned, you could name anybody and I'll tell you right off the bat. I don't care right this minute. What one thing did you learn from them? It's normally one, it could be three. What I did also learn is what not to do. They're not on my list.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. When you do things opposite of me, my life, myself as a wrestler, as a human being, and you're doing opposite of what I do, which is trouble or whatever you want to call it, however you want to go down that avenue, you're going the wrong way. And I'm not going to go the wrong way. It's phenomenal.
I'm telling you right now, fans, people listening, you're going to read that list right at the beginning of the book and you're going to go, oh boy, this is going to be good. And guess what? It is good. This is a real wrestling fans book because real wrestling fans know exactly who Barry Horowitz is.
Exactly.
And you wouldn't expect a book from somebody like you, and they wouldn't expect it to be as detailed and with so many memories and so many facts that are in it. It's just a fascinating book. I got to give you props. You, Jason Norman, and your son.
Thanks.
Unbelievable job, guys. I mean, seriously, I'm not blowing smoke at you. I read a wrestling book once a month. This is really good.
When you look at that list and see, it's just not me calling out names, and it's just the truth about people that helped me through my journey. I appreciate that. It helped me. Now, granted, my mindset was set. The rest, it starts in this order. Me. What are you going to do? Second, who's going to train you? Third, travel and get polished. Fourth, learn from the veterans. Listen to what they have to say. You're in those long car trips, keep your mouth shut. Listen to Rufus R. Jones. Listen to Jimmy Valiant. Listen to the referee, Sonny Fargo. Listen to Johnny Weaver. It goes on. And it's helped me. But as far as my ability as an athlete, I got all of this from everybody and take this part and take that part. But it was me that put the physicality in it because I'm in charge of it. It's my body and my brain as far as thinking, psychology and wrestling and moves. And there's just so much to it that people can't fathom it. They can't.
It's a one-of-a-kind sport. There's nothing else like it. And like I said, that's why I hold wrestling in such high esteem because it's like, it's more than just jumping in a ring and doing a few moves. It's right. You got to get there. You got to have a life work balance, which is harder for wrestlers than anybody else I know. I insist on that. To do that life work balance as a wrestler, particularly in the 80s when guys were doing 2 spots a day, sometimes you must have done that yourself, right?
I did more than that. We used to have, Vince had he only did it for about a year, called Double Shot Weekend. And this is how it went down. Saturday, let's just say for argument's sake, you get on a private jet with 4 or 5 other wrestlers. There's a box lunch. It's decent. At noon is Atlanta, Georgia. Get in on that plane after the show's over, and you got to get to, let's just say Atlanta, Georgia. Let's just say you couldn't drive it. So let's just say Kansas City that night at 8:00. See how they would do that? They did that double shot. So I would wrestle 4 times in 2 days.
Oh my gosh, twice.
Yeah.
2 in 2 days. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'll give you a good example was, the one we didn't have to fly, we flew into Atlanta, did the, Omni, and I
Yeah.
finally got to go there. Oh, it was so cool because I still eluded only a couple of buildings that I've never wrestled at, but most almost every building, I probably only wrestled the ones I missed, maybe 2, maybe in Australia, maybe the Tokyo Dome, and the Pyramid in Memphis. So from there, get in the car and drive to Columbus, Georgia. Let me think. Yeah, Columbus, Georgia. And if I'm not mistaken, that's where Marty Jannetty's from and trained for wrestling. Not a bad drive. For the most part, you got to get on the like a Learjet on that plane, and because you're going farther. I mean, you're making it in an hour opposed to a 4-hour rent-a-car drive. He did that only for about a year, but I was part of him. Just another thing that I could notch off and go, "Wow, I did this."
Oh, those things are legendary. Hey,
Oh, yeah.
what was it like stepping into the ring at Madison Square Garden?
Oh, phenomenal. I just loved it because I was normally, if I'm at the Garden, I was first, second, or third match, which I loved. And always remember on the wrestling card, the first match is important and the last one. That's the most important pecking order. The first,
Mhm.
you want to get those people ready for second, third, fourth, blah, blah, blah. And the last is the main event. You want to leave them happy when they go home so they will come back again. The
Right.
matches in between, nothing wrong with them. They're just part of it. But when you go with the most important, how I was taught, first and last. Madison Square Garden, iconic. Things have been there. I was there at a WrestleMania, took pictures with Burt Reynolds there. He's telling me he went to FSU. I'm telling him I wrestled there. I'm his best friend now. You tell Burt Reynolds you went to FSU, you're his best friend. Taking pictures with iconic people in the world of entertainment and sports and what have you. And I just loved it because I was a heel. I'd walk out there and just booing this, that. It was great, and I was a part of it. And I know other things have, if you make it anywhere, Madison Square Garden's probably number one in any venue in music, sports, anything, what you call it, concerts, everything like that. I mean, and
Yeah.
I got to do it numerous times.
They don't call it the world's most famous arena for nothing.
Yeah, and if you noticed on the marquee outside of there, on the marquee, it says in bold letters, "Wrestling Tonight."
Mhm. Absolutely. I can tell you're as enthusiastic now as you were when you were working, I think. It's like I can feel it just by
This
watching you
is
and listening to you.
and
This
this
is
is
Barry
Bar
Horowitz, yeah,
this is Barry Horowitz at home doing an interview. You get
right.
me around that ring and I got a good night's sleep. I got my protein in me. I had a hell of a workout. Prepare for a 5-hour seminar nonstop. Try to keep up. Hang on, because it will be a hell of a friggin' ride.
I'm sure it will be. Well, anyway, one more time, the name of the book is Wrestling Is My Gimmick, My Life on the Wrong Side of the 3 Count. It's Barry Horowitz. This has been a thrill for me, man. I am serious. I don't know how you felt about wrestling magazines back in the day, but, we covered you, man.
I know you did.
I was typing your name all the time.
I was gonna My son told me it, and I said, "Pro Wrestling Illustrated." I've got out in the garage different magazines that I was in, and when I
Mhm.
was younger, when I got that pro wrestling, I wanna be a pro wrestler. Everybody says they wanna be a baseball player, a magician, this, and that, but it doesn't come true. My first love was magic. I was studying magic when I was 10 years old until I got the sports bite when I was probably 12 or 13. I'm going to the beach, and this store always would have Pro Wrestling Illustrated, The Insider, The Wrestler. I bought
Right.
them all constantly. I had cutout pictures all over my room of people like Jack Briscoe and Mike Graham, people I like, Terry Funk, so yeah, yeah, I know those magazines well. So when
Mhm.
my son said pro wrestling, I said, "Oh my God, I got to show." And he knew what it was because I think I showed it to him before. I got to throw something at you because you said it, but we didn't finish it. And
Okay.
maybe I'll win, maybe I'll lose with this. So this is not rehearsed, folks. This is a shoot. You name anybody on that list. I don't care. Mix it up like a magic trick, and I will tell you what they did in my career for me.
Oh, I believe you. I absolutely believe you.
Anybody you say, I will give you an answer.
All right. I'll pop this. We'll do one. We'll do one. Chief J. Strongbow.
Great. Chief J. Strongbow. He was an agent, and he always treated me nice. He would have nicknames for people like Bret Hart, he would call Stu Hart. Ronnie Garvin, he'd call him the dump truck. He had to me, if he's looking for me, Mr. Horowitz, I need you over here. And you just go with the flow with Chief. He's cool. I just I I wasn't afraid. I'm not gonna be an ass kisser. Like Bill Belichick says, do your job. This goes in anything. Think about it. Any walk of life. Do your job.
Mm-hmm.
Don't worry about the outside interference. That's none of your business. Do your job. Not Bill's, not John's, not Bob's, not Josh, Barry Horowitz's job. So that's what I learned from Chief J. Strongbow. And he would tell me, just different things in the ring, critique different things when I first started, help me with little things. He's an agent. That's his job. And he did it.
Interesting. Because, I've heard people talk in other terms about Chief J. Strongbow. But you know what? I talk about this on the podcast. I don't care about that kind of thing. Like if somebody didn't get along, I didn't care. I was there for what was inside the ring. I didn't care what was going on backstage. I still don't.
You know what? I agree with you. Anybody, a wrestler, especially a wrestler, or a fan, and they look at me and they go, oh, he just put people over and stuff like that. First of all, your ignorance is spilling out all over the floor. You need to clean it up. That's number one. Number two, you're a friggin' mark. You're a mark for yourself if you're a wrestler, and you're a mark if you're a fan acting like that. It is so disrespectful. You go in there and do what I did. I'm a trained professional wrestler, not sports entertainment. I am a trained professional wrestler.
You bet you are. And here he is patting himself on the back, folks, just like he did in the 80s and 90s. That's great.
And today.
And today, yeah. Folks, it's Barry Horowitz. Tell people where they can find you. Social media, anything else? I know you get your book, and here's the beauty part. I can say the book's available everywhere. I'm right about that, right?
Yeah, as far as I know Amazon, and where else? Maybe you got some hidden secrets I don't know.
No, but you're a published book, so I think it's available through any bookstore. If people walked through the bookstore, they could order it. That's for sure.
What I like about the book is everything you said, and I love the cover and I love the wording, and half of that was me. I really like that. But you can get the book. I will sign it at the meet and greets. I'm on prowrestlingtees.com. I'm on Facebook. I'm on any wrestling WCW, WWF. You're going to see archives of me there. I don't want to skip nothing. YouTube, of course. Unbelievable matches of the 80s up until now on YouTube. Really impressive wrestling matches, not gimmick matches. What else? I just don't want to forget. Of course, like I said, the meet and greets, the seminars I do. I know I'm missing something. The book I said already. Of course, I do podcasts, interviews. Yeah, I think I've touched on everything. I can't think of any. Of course, huge. This is almost forgot this. This is really big. My action figure is out. There's 4 of them.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. Yes.
How does it feel after all these years? How does it feel to have somebody come out with an action figure?
It's really cool because I've had people make them. I've had Pro Wrestling Loot make mini-me's of me, okay? Mm-hmm. But to get, what happens is when the action figures came out, Hasbro would do them, WWF had them. If you're not on there, it's just a wannabe copy. Those days are gone. Toy stores are making them, so everybody's collecting them. Now, they want a plethora of all of them, but I'm on one of the big boys from China. Big, huge. This company is kbk.com. They're incredible. They made 4 of them of me. Possibly a 5th is coming out with the vest with the hand on the back.
That's great.
And they had pre-sales. It ended May 1st or May 2nd. You could look it up. You could look at my action figures. These are, excuse me, these are top notch. So if you add up all my accolades, towards the end is the book, and then the action figure comes next. I did an interview for them live from a New York WrestleCon, I think about 2 months ago.
Mhm.
It was interesting, and I'm going to be doing even more so with them. Then that is huge though. The action figures, and they're pretty cool looking. And
Okay, great.
I guess you've seen them. So
How did that come about? Did they contact you, say, "We wanna make it" how did that work?
yes, yes,
They came to you?
they came to me. And here's the good part. I'm glad you asked that too. Without knocking anybody, I've been approached by two companies.
Mhm,
Let's see. One took 3 years and nothing happened. The second
mhm.
one, I'm still waiting. That's been going on 3 years. Actually, 3 years right now. But KBK, let's see, gets in touch with me January of this year on a Monday. Wednesday, I sign a contract with a bonus signing. You know what that means? You're a professional, you're the real deal, and you're going forward with Barry Horowitz. And they said I'm up there as far as sales and what they want to do with my project. Basically, they're respecting me. Meanwhile, we'll just switch gears right here, real quick. I'm in the WWF. I'm getting pushed. I'm doing this. You're doing everything. You even made a t-shirt for me, but you didn't make an action figure. But you know who they did make an action figure for? Now think about what I'm about to say. Something Clarence something, and he's a lawyer. And he's a lawyer for that team, MOM, Mo and Mabel, Men on a Mission.
They made an action figure for their lawyer character.
Right, because at the time, maybe the OJ thing, and he looked like Clarence Darrow. Am I saying
Mhm.
that right?
Yeah, yeah.
Right? So,
Mhm.
let me get this right now. You see what I mean? You know what a slap in the face that is? 1 year he was there, can't even lace my boots, and you couldn't give me an action. I'm not mad or jealous. That's ignorant. That's ignorant on the talent department, on the merchandise department. Believe me, even then, I would have outsold his ass. You don't wanna do it? No problem. Your loss. You don't wanna hire me as a coach? Your loss. What, do I have to prove myself? Do I need a job interview for these different things? I'm not doing that. I don't have nothing to prove. Proof's in the pudding. If you can't see any kind of talent in what I'm saying, what I'm you wanna fire pro wrestling questions at me and secrets behind the curtain, I'll win. I'll win. I'll go back and forth with you like a ping pong match. And the only reason I'm saying it like this, I'm saying it with conviction, is because I believe in myself and I know what I'm saying. I say what I mean and I mean what I say. And I take it very highly because I worked hard for it.
Mhm.
See, I am not one of these guys. Think about what I'm about to say on this one. You've got enhancement guys. You've got guys that are getting beat on TV, and then you got enhancement wrestlers.
Mhm.
The other guy is he's 5'6", he's out of shape, ring gear is possibly from Walmart. He's got the job face on when they introduce him. He's like this, weighing in for 250 pounds from Staten Island, New York, Johnny Go-Go. This is the face. That means you're gonna lose.
Yeah. I gotta ask a question. You worked Allentown and this other figure. There were always the preliminary guys in television, they all did the same thing, particularly if they were fed to heels. They would say, "Here he is, Johnny Go-Go," and they would just they wouldn't even react. They would just put a hand in the air, and they always looked like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna get killed."
They weren't taught right.
No,
Watch
that's
their
not
work.
teaching them right, yeah.
I could watch somebody lock up and I could tell I'll change the channel. I could tell the way they bump. Okay? Forget the promos. You learn to work first. That's how I look at it. That's how I was taught. But yeah, they've got that face. So this way, they got a 9 to 5 job at Macy's or Walgreens. Nothing against that. They got the 401k. They got a career. They just want to tell their friends, "Hey, I wrestled Ric Flair on TV." See what I mean? That's cool.
Yeah.
That's not me. I'm not a one-time guy. I don't wanna be a wannabe. I wanna be full-time in any capacity. Think about it. Believe me, some of these guys would do 2 things. The stupid one would go, "I'm not doing that." Okay, well, then stay at home and work the indie scene for $20 a night at some friggin' flea market. And I've did all of that because I paid my dues. I don't do it now. You need to think that way, and they don't. So they got that face on. They weren't trained right. They don't know what they're doing. They get to tell people that wasn't my thing. Like I said, what I'm saying is I did what I wanted to do. Could I have gone higher? No, that's all their decision. But I can look at myself every morning, wash my face, that I worked my hardest, no sexual favors, no payoffs, no nothing. All mine was hard work. That's a
Mhm.
fact. And anybody
Oh,
wants to challenge me on it, let's go.
no, your record is pretty indelible. I think everybody knows who you are, everybody knows what you did, and I'm glad you're still around. This has been a real treat for me to meet you this way and ask you questions that you gave me great answers on, and to read the book and get to know you a little better. This is cool stuff, and I want everybody else to do the same thing.
Yeah, it's been an honor because you ask different questions, which I like. Some interviews are the same, some are unique. I like that. I mean, podcasts and different things like that. I love that.
Well,
And you
you can probably tell I've been around the bush with this stuff for a long time. I started
oh,
watching wrestling in 1970. All right. So it's like I
yeah.
have a big depth of decades of really being into it. And then to get into the business I got into the business in 88. I had actually worked for WCW for a little while and some other magazine titles too. And I worked on and off with Bill Apter, who I'm sure you know. Everybody knows
Oh, I
Bill.
love Bill Apter.
Yeah. Who doesn't love Bill Apter? Hello, Bill. Hope you're
Good
listening,
man.
buddy.
Yeah, Bill. You're the man,
He is
Bill.
Yes, he is. But in any event, this kind of thing is why I started the show, to meet people like you, to talk to you, get your memories, and I hope you sell a gazillion books because this is a good one, folks. Again, it's called "Wrestling Is My Gimmick: My Life on the Wrong Side of the Three Count." As far as I'm concerned, you were on the right side every time, my friend.
Hey, just for fun, because I'm doing this, and
Hmm.
this is my interview, but it's really yours because you
Right.
got in touch with me, and I'm honored to be on your show. And hopefully down the road we could do it again. Because let me tell you something. I've had people say, "Could we do a part two?" I said, in my life, we could do 3, 4, 5, and 6, and I'll
Hmm.
change every story because they're all real. They're all a shoot. Some I don't say, just out of respect. There's certain
Or
things.
if you're giving me an offer like that, we will talk again soon. How's that sound? We'll get you back and we'll do some
Oh,
more kibitzing about anything you want to talk about.
it'd be great. And yeah, we can get into my country music, country music hobby. Love that. And if you follow country music, 1995, I was in the Song of the Year, the Video of the Year on CMT, Country Music
What?
Television. Joe Diffie, Pickup Man. I'm the Pickup Man.
Get out of here! Really?
All you got to do is type in Joe Diffie, Pickup Man. You will see Barry Horowitz in there. I was probably in my 30s, black tank top, had the Billy Ray Cyrus mullet. Oh, you'll see me. You'll see the pat on the back. You'll see women in the show. You'll see Bigfoot in the show. You'll see monster trucks in the show. And of course, the star, Joe Diffie, which God
Right.
rest his soul, he died of COVID 5 years ago.
Well, that's terrible.
Greatness comes from almost everywhere. But when it comes to country music, it's all about Nashville, Texas, Oklahoma. We can go on and on with that too. Missouri, Georgia.
Well, here's what we do next time. Joe Puccio is my co-host on this show, so let's get myself, you, and Joe together, and we'll pepper you with all kinds of questions. How's that sound?
Sure. Do me
All
one
right.
favor. I was saying this, and
Sure.
when I'm not doing all of that stuff, I'm in the gym probably 5 to 6 times a week, and I spend a lot of time at home running errands and with my son and my wife. So,
Mhm.
that's what I do when all the other stuff. Oh, and by the way, just for fun here too, I've got over 1,000 wins on Madden.
Oh, don't
I'm
even bring
proud of
up
that.
Madden.
I'm proud of that.
Madden is the greatest sports simulation game ever, for any type of video game. I think it's the ultimate video game, and I'm sure you probably feel the same way.
Oh, without a doubt, without a doubt. And I'm pretty decent on it. I'm not elite. I can't go on the bus with John Madden, but I'm all right. I hold my own. I may have 2,000 wins. I'm not sure.
And the reason I laugh so hard is I had a good friend of mine that used to come over to my apartment, and you know, we would steal away into the bedroom and play Madden from 7:00 at night till 4:00 the next morning.
Ooh.
And we would just play and play and play. It was just game after game. He would usually be the fellow would be the Carolina Panthers, and I picked some other team. He used to whip my ass all the time. I was not as good as he was. But when we played MLB The Show, I beat him every time. So everybody has their strengths, That's how it works.
My pecking order of that is I got to have all my stuff done. If you got things to do that are priority in an adult life and a family life, that comes first. When I got nothing to do, I need maybe an hour, half hour, which equals to 1 to 2, 3 games. Depends how many people I own and they quit in 10 seconds. So it all depends on that situation. But as ending this interview, I want you to throw one more person at me.
Eddie Gilbert.
Okay, Eddie Gilbert. Let's see, have I wrestled Eddie? I think I have, and it was a pleasure. And also, he was the booker at Global.
Right.
And he thought of the winner idea. Yeah, I thought, and it was fine to work. He was fine to work with. There was nothing out of the ordinary. Let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm. I thought he was a brilliant guy, and to me, he was a real Southern gentleman every time I ever talked to him. I thought he was a respectful, polite guy, and that's rare for wrestling. He was soft-spoken, and
yes,
he was authoritative at the same time.
Yes, and also his dad was awesome. Tommy Gilbert, good wrestler, came through Florida, very good.
This is the one and only Barry Horowitz. What a blast, man. Good to meet you. We'll do it again soon. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much, Bob. I appreciate you. I appreciate what you did for the magazine. I appreciate what you're doing for me right this minute and just in the pro wrestling area and community. You're the man.
They tell me that, but, sometimes I'm not so sure. I tell you what, this podcasting stuff is tough, man. It's like the beauty part about it is this. When I was a young man, I went to college for communications and I wanted to be on radio. Life took me in a different area and I never had an opportunity to do that. Now this is the same as radio, just no ads. So I'm having a blast. I started the thing all on my own. We're into our 3rd year now and I can't believe how successful we've been. It's just been, and this is what I want you to know. More people know, admire, and respect you than you think. Because if a guy like me, a schlub in an office writing wrestling articles, people will remember me from 35 years ago, it boggles my mind. I can't believe it. So why not exploit it? This is what caused me to do the podcast. Because it's like, I didn't know that people would possibly remember me from those years. I was just a name on a page.
Wow.
Amazing. Amazing.
I'm going to leave you with 3 things to ponder on. And I have a bunch of these things, but they're just, I don't know, one-liners, whatever you want to call them. You could tell a guy from Florida, but you can't tell him much. That's number 1. Number 2, tomorrow is never guaranteed. Right? And number 3, when I lost my matches, it was phony. But when I won, it was real.
That's different. That's quite a thought right there. For a wrestler, you're quite the intellectual. You know that? That's deep. That's deep. But you won't hear that from most wrestlers.
I surrounded myself to this day, besides my parents and my family, immediate family and friends, I circle myself with these kind of people. You don't. You're going to be in the dumbass broke line. And I'm sure ESPN airs that about once a year.
Thank you for everything today. I really appreciate it. The fans are going to love this. Again, Barry Horowitz. Thank you.
This is for you. This is for you, Bob.
Oh my God, he's patting himself on the back. Attention, Gen Xers. If you'd like to explore the era that appeals to you, look no further than GenerationXWire.com. The generation who grew up with the elite in entertainment, music, movies, TV, books, pro wrestling, and more finally has a one-stop destination for all their Gen X needs. From Aerosmith to Batman to the Killer Bees to the Twilight Zone, there's something for everybody at GenerationXWire.com. You won't find a more eclectic mix of pop culture content than at the leading website that specializes in the greatest generation, GenerationXWire.com. Check it out today. The one and only Barry Horowitz. Wow. We have never met before, and now I feel like I know him for about 5 years because our shared experiences, our intermingling of time frames, it doesn't come around every day. And I want to thank Joe Puccio again for hooking us up together. That's good stuff. Barry Horowitz, Joe. And you know what? If you want to hear a little bit more from Barry right away, cameos make a great gift. And you can get a Barry Horowitz cameo. It's real simple. Go to cameo.com. He will be happy to provide you anything you need in terms of a greeting or just a hello even to you. He'll talk to you. Again, Barry Horowitz at cameo.com. You're going to want to check that out. Another heck of a show there. I really enjoyed this one. I want to thank Joe Puccio again for his wonderful contributions and his love of Carvel cakes. And our website is Outdated Wrestling Hour at buzzsprout.com. You can listen to every show we ever did. We're not gonna, I mean it. We are not gonna Patreon you for old shows. I am probably the least. Bob, you're supposed to monetize everything in podcasts. Well, yeah, I know. I want people to listen to the show. I just want you to listen to the show. And I think the easiest way to get you to listen to the show is listen to the show on our website, outdatedwrestling.buzzsprout.com. But if you would like to contribute to the ongoing adventures of the Outdated Wrestling Hour and our sister podcast, the Outdated Entertainment Hour, well, go to outdatedwrestling.buzzsprout.com, and there is the Outdated Wrestling Hour fan club, where for a nominal fee, and I mean nominal, is my vocabulary too large? Let me try this. For a teeny tiny fee, you can help perpetuate. You can help us keep the show on the air. And yeah, seriously, we have our coterie of friends and fans who dip in a couple of bucks every month, and it's really inexpensive, like almost hopefully nothing. You know what? If you contribute to the podcast at our lowest $3 rate, that's less than a copy of a newspaper here in New York City every day. So look at it that way. The comparatives work. We're about to find out. But anyway, join our fan club at outdatedwrestlinghour.buzzsprout.com. I want to get another Zoom-style meeting with all of or as many of our fan club members as I can. Maybe right along a famous person or two and see if they'll show up. So we were a little remiss in doing it, but it's all because the shows have been going so good and so fast coming that I have to work on them all the time. It really does take a lot of time. And I mean it, a lot of time. I do everything when it comes to this podcast. I'll let you know that. I think we've talked about this before. I don't trust it in anyone else's hands, and I've seen other people botch it. So I do it all myself. All of this, the production, the music, acquisitions, everything is done by me and me only. And I work hard because I want to entertain you all. I really do. I want to entertain you with a show that I would like to listen to. That's my idea. If I think it's funny, if I think it's entertaining, if I think it's informative, I'm hoping that you'll agree with me. And that's what makes these podcasts work so well. Not to mention great guests like we've had recently. Steve Gennarelli, Brian R. Solomon, tonight Barry Horowitz. I mean, just go down the list. We have been very lucky getting some really great guests and some really interesting topics. Write to us, outdatedwrestling@gmail.com. Questions, queries, whatever's on your mind. Find me on Facebook. I'm the only Bob Smith singing with B.B. King. People ask me, are you going to do a dedicated, section there for just the podcast? I'm debating that. I really am. Like a section like, I know Stick to Wrestling has one. I know Brian Solomon has one. And they're really great. Maybe I will do that. Maybe I will switch things over to that eventually. But for right now, because I'm so doggone busy and I'm still working full-time in sports media, at least for the time being, got to get that work-life balance like we talk about all the time. But in any event, find me on Facebook. I'm the only Bob Smith that sings with B.B. King. You can also find me on Instagram, Threads, X. Yeah, I'm still on X. And what's the other one? Oh, Blue Sky. I guess that's it for now. Please join us again next Friday for another Outdated Wrestling Hour, where we will attempt to entertain you again with a loving look back at some of the old school wrestling that gets me all ginchy inside, and hopefully it does for you too. My name is Bob Smith. I was lucky enough to work for Pro Wrestling Illustrated and a whole host of wrestling magazines in the 80s and 90s. and I continue to perpetuate on every weekly episode of the Outdated Wrestling Hour. Until next week, in the words of Ringo Starr, peace and love, everybody. Peace and love.